Hello, I'm Simon, and this is my new PC which I built with the specific aim to be a video editor, to be able to cope with high definition footage easily, and also be a new gaming PC. And it was a very enjoyable experience doing all the research and everything for it, but I'm a bit of a nerd like that, I suppose, and so I thought, now it's all done and up and running, I would just do a little video just talking you through the various components that I decided to go for, and it will also hopefully be useful for anyone looking to build a PC who either doesn't need as high a spec as this, or someone who needs much higher spec than this, because even though this cost me £950, this is kind of slap bang in the middle of what would be deemed as a budget PC and what would be deemed as a higher end dedicated gaming or editing PC. So this falls somewhere in the middle ground. So as I go through the various components, you'll be able to see how you can save some money if your needs aren't quite the same, or if your tastes aren't quite the same, and you'll also be able to see how you can gain more performance by considering higher priced and higher performance options. So let's crack on and let's go through these components. So the starting point for me was to decide which which basis I was going to use for the desktop, and so the main choices really are AMD or Intel, and quite frankly at the moment AMD are absolutely dominating the market in terms of performance, and certainly price to performance, and in the price range that I was looking at, it was a no-brainer to look at AMD. And then in this case I went for one of their mid-range CPUs, which is the Ryzen 3600, and which is a 6-core processor and going to be perfect for gaming and perfect for video editing as well. And in conjunction with the other components that I've gone for, it's turned out really nicely. This particular processor also comes with a cooler. This is the this is the Stealth cooling fan. Not particularly large, but is plenty enough. So long as you're not going to be trying to do any heavy overclocking, this is plenty good enough for what I'm going to be using it for. And I've been monitoring the temperatures and everything of the processor and of the system in general, and this fan works absolutely fine. So it's only really worth increasing costs if you want to go for higher clock speeds and even higher performance. So because I was going for a Ryzen build, that basically meant that I was going to be needing a motherboard which had an AM4 socket on it. Now, with this being a 3rd generation Ryzen, the PC industry would like you to think that you therefore need what's known as an X570 motherboard, which are the latest and greatest motherboards, but I went for this B450, which cost me well under £100. I think it was about £89, something like that, and it does the job absolutely perfectly. My main needs when it came to the motherboard really was to have a decent amount of USB 3 inputs, extra support for additional RAM if I need to upgrade either the overall performance of the system, so this will cope with up to 64 gigabytes of RAM. I've only fitted 16, which is plenty for my needs right now, but if I needed a higher performance laptop, not a laptop, I'm so used to using a laptop, if I needed a higher performance PC, if I was doing you know, much longer and much more complex video edits, then this motherboard allows me to increase the RAM and also increase the power of the processor, and it can cope with it absolutely perfectly. It's got really good quality components on it. It's got good quality VRMs, which are the voltage regulation modules, and so that means it's able to run all of the hardware absolutely perfectly for my needs and future needs. I didn't need Wi-Fi on this because where the computer's going to end up, I have an Ethernet connection going in there, so as long as the motherboard had Ethernet on it, that was good enough for me. And this has also got USB-C at the back, a USB 3.2C. It doesn't have a connection for front panel USB-C, unfortunately, but that wasn't an absolute deal breaker, as right as we speak now, I don't have any USB-C devices that can make use of it, so just having one port is good enough. And then this was the RAM. Decided to be a little bit blingy, I suppose, because I went for some RGB RAM. I didn't want the whole desktop to look like a 12-year-old boy's gaming fantasy, but I did want a little bit of character to go with it, so I went for that RAM. And I went for this as the main hard drive. This is the main boot drive and main storage initially. It's a 1TB NVMe M.2 drive. Ridiculously fast transfer times. You're looking at 3 gigabytes per second read and write times, and it is absolutely doing that as well. And it's pretty extraordinary, really, the performance that you can get out of something so small. I think it weighs about 6 grams in total. And this particular one, this is the ADATA SX8200, which for some is a bit of a no-name when you consider there's options like Crucial and Samsung and Intel. But this was a great price. It was about £92, and I've not regretted the purchase at all. It works absolutely fantastically, and yeah, it should be absolutely perfect for my needs. Then we've got the graphics card. This was a bit of a hard pill to swallow. This was £300. It's been a long time since I've built a PC for my own use, and it's pretty extraordinary how the graphics card can comfortably, well, in nearly all cases, the graphics card is more expensive than the processor. It's crazy, really, but there we go. And I went for the AMD once again. This is the Radeon 5700, RX 5700. I didn't need the XT version, which is a slightly higher powered one with slightly higher clock speeds. This particular one will work perfectly for high frame rate 1080p gaming, or decent frame rate at 2K 1440p gaming. So I just needed something that was going to do, I don't know, 50-60 frames a second at 1440p. There's no point me doing super high refresh rate 1080p gaming because I don't have a high refresh rate monitor. The one that I've gone for is a 1440p 2K monitor, and yeah, so this graphics card at £300, and they're already more expensive than this. This has done the job just nicely. It's just the perfect amount of power and performance for what I need. If you want to save money, you can save money very, very easily by, for example, with AMD, there's the RX 570 graphics card, which is about £150 cheaper. Slightly lower performance, but you get what you pay for to a degree with any computer. It's also worth noting that with graphics cards, you don't even necessarily need one as high a spec as that if you're not going to be doing high definition, high refresh rate gaming, you can very easily get hold of processors with built-in graphics and save yourself, you know, a large bulk of the money just by having an integrated graphics card built into the processor. So these fans that I went for, there were 2 case fans already built into the case, which is the case I went for was called the Lian Li, what was it called, the Lancool 1, that's it, Lancool 1 Digital. And these fans made by Noctua, they're static pressure fans. I put 3 at the front, and they run, I've set it up so they run silent for the majority of the time, and then just boost up nicely when additional cooling's needed. Only £12 each, and even though they're not the prettiest in design because of the case design, you just don't get to see them, so it's not an issue. And then the power supply. Now for my particular system, which is it's around 400 watts, this particular power supply at 850 watts might seem a bit of overkill, but once again, what I'm looking for here when I was building the PC was something that I can expand into with it without having to replace lots of core components. So having a motherboard that can cope with a better processor and RAM was important, and likewise having a power supply that is plenty good enough for what I need now, but also plenty good enough for what I'll need in the future. Also, because of the way that the efficiency curves work on this particular power supply, it's basically silent for nearly all of the use that I give it, and then it's also, not only is it silent, but it's also operating at almost peak efficiency for the majority of the time that I'm using the computer. So yeah, seems like a bit of overkill, but quality is important, and it's hard to get too excited about a power supply because once it's fitted, you very rarely ever see it again. So it's important to me that once it's fitted, I can forget about it. It's got a 10-year guarantee, and yeah. Now the other thing with the cost of the power supply is I wanted a fully modular unit because I wanted to use as few cables as possible, and that helps with cable management, and yeah, just means you don't have a rat's nest of unused cables tucked away under the PC. So once again, yet another factor in going for this particular one was the fact it came with some quite nice white leads. I wanted some white ones just to brighten up the interior of the case just a little bit, and it's given me more leads than I'll ever need in a million years, I think. And but yeah, it's worked out to be a good choice for me, and at the time that I bought the power supply it was actually just £90, so they're currently 120, so I got it at a good price as well. So the overriding thing to take from that I would take from building this PC is that, yeah, I could have saved a bit of money in some of the areas. I could have saved £30–40 on the power supply, but if the power supply is going to last for 10 years, I'm saving about £4 a year, so that doesn't seem worthwhile. Could have gone for a second generation on the Ryzen processors. Likewise with the graphics card, I just wanted a little bit more performance, because with video editing, if you render your videos in a particular way, and once again it depends on the software that you're using, it uses the graphics card to help the processor to do the final results on the video. So basically I have the video card running at kind of 40–50%. So once again it's all working towards that, you know, quiet and efficient PC that I was trying to achieve. So I thought I'd just do this quick video whilst it's bang in the middle of rendering. The video that you're actually watching, I'm doing a test render on it at the output that I would normally use. So this is at 1080p, 30 frames a second on this, doesn't need a high frame rate. And And as you can see, everything is, just very uneventful. We've got the CPU working with all 6 cores, which is what we want to see. There's no point in having a CPU if it isn't doing what you want it to do. And the base clock should be 3.6, but it just boosts up to 3.9, so it just doesn't boost to the full 4.2, and that's in order to manage the temperatures, which are currently at 74 degrees. And as I'm talking to you, the microphone is right next to the desktop, so I'll stay quiet for a second. You can hear exactly what the desktop sounds like whilst it's really at a fairly healthy load. So nice and quiet, and that's exactly the result that I've been looking for with this PC, something that would do it at reasonable temperatures and acceptable noise levels without it sounding like it's taking off. So there we go. I hope you find that vaguely interesting, and thanks very much for watching.